WNST in the doldrums of Orioles baseball and the Lamar Jackson, Joe Flacco getting on the same field at the same time thing going on around here. We got golf on the mind. Robert Canady joining us here anytime it gets to be a beautiful 85-degree day out on the golf course down there in Pasadena. They got 36 holes for you down at Compass Pointe. And, of course, Robert Canady also buckets and birds out on Twitter. But there are no buckets right now, just birds and hopefully birdies and eagles and all sorts of good things as we get ready for Fort Worth. And, hey, the U.S. Open not too far off in Shinnecock a couple weeks out on Father's Day. I know everyone is pointed toward that in the golf world. But meantime, some good weather and a nice holiday weekend to either play or watch them play, right?
Yeah, absolutely, Nestor. It's we're in that stretch run leading up to the U.S. Open, which is about three to 4 weeks out, and every player kind of will prepare for it differently. This week at Fort Worth, the Invitational down there, there's a few more players than they've played the past week at the Byron Nelson. You've got Jordan Spieth, Ricky Fowler, John Rahm in it. A big story to watch will be Adam Scott is actually not qualified for the U.S. Open yet, and I know that may sound kind of strange because he's been one of the always in the top 50 or so of the world for the last many years, but it's been, all of his exemptions have run out, and he needs to score some points or more so a victory to be assure himself of not having to go through U.S. Open qualifying where he'd be out there playing in shorts at a place like Woodmont Country Club on a Monday in early June with all the other hopefuls who actually work for a living, that's kind of the neat thing about the U.S. Open, and we can obviously talk about more of that as it gets closer, but it is truly an open. Anyone with a handicap of 1.8 or below can enter the qualifying and tee it up at a place like Woodmont for sectional qualifying and shoot a couple good rounds, and all of a sudden find themselves on the driving range next to Tiger and Phil in a couple of weeks at Shinnecock. So that's kind of one of the exciting things about the U.S. Open as we get approach it a few weeks down the road.
How do the exemptions and stuff work? As far as qualifying, and I guess in getting ready for all this. I don't know the patterns of what golfers want to play, what tournaments, and why. I just look up, and some weeks some guys are in field, some weeks they're not. And I guess that's all associated with life on the road and doing this the way they do. You can't play every tournament. But it is interesting who selects what and where and why.
It really is. The answer to your first question about the exemptions, it's something, to be honest, I have to go to the USGA website and look at every year because there's 7 different ways you can qualify. From if you've won the U.S. Open, in the last 10 years, you're automatically qualified. If you're a tour winner in the last 2 years, you're qualified. If you're in the top 50 of the world or top 30 or so of the money list from last year. So there's, any number of ways based upon how you've played over the last few years to qualify. And then for all those that don't meet any of those, they hold these open qualifying. They start with a local qualifying, which there's probably 100 or so of those around the country that was held a couple weeks ago, and the people that advance past that go to these sectionals, which are fewer and far between. There's about a dozen of them over the first week of June, and they're usually held right before a tour event or right after one, and that's why they have one here in the D.C. area right before the AT&T tournament, that Tiger hosts every year. So they've realized a lot of players are going to be in town for that, and if they're not already qualified, a chance for them to go through it. As far as the scheduling, each player is different. They have courses that they like to play year after year. Some will say that, this course just fits well to my eye. I always seem to play well here, so I want to make sure I go to it. Sometimes it's a matter of the city, places their wife likes to travel to maybe, or that they have friends or family or corporate relations that maybe fits on their schedule doing other things, and past success always. If someone's won at a place, generally they feel that they've done successful and go back there. And then there's a matter of scheduling. Like you said, they don't play every week. There's 40-some tournaments during the year, and most of the players will play anywhere from 25 to 30 of those, and rarely more than 4 weeks in a row. Being 4 weeks in a row on a road, working, many players, people see them only playing 4 days a week.
It's like a rock and roll band. You go out for a couple weeks, you go home for a week, right?
Exactly, yeah. Go home, recharge, rest, spend some time with the family, pack, that type of stuff, and then get back out on the road for 2 or 3 weeks. And, nowadays it's all about the majors for the big players, that top 20 or 30 in the world. So they set up their schedule as to how the majors fall. Some don't like to play the week before a major. They like to spend that week at home kind of preparing on their own.
Well, and everything in between them, it seems like preseason, right? Kind of, sort of.
Yeah, exactly. Preseason, leading up to those, it's like they could have 4 preseasons, during the course of a year. It's a good way to put it. And they prepare differently. Some like to play a lot going into it, and some like several weeks of rest. So it's really an individualistic thing, and over the next month you're going to see that. You'll probably see most of the top players in the world next week in Columbus at Jack's tournament, the Memorial. That's a great course. It's a U.S. Open quality course. They could easily play a major there at any time, and of course, with Jack being the host, they all like to show up and pay homage to him and everything. And then they'll take a week or two off before the U.S. Open, and some will continue to play. So, but this is a week that's not as light as last week. There's a few more people starting to play this week. Jordan Spieth has done really well here in Fort Worth in the last couple of years. He's either won it or finished second each of the last 3 years, and
everybody likes to root for him, right?
Yeah, he's an easy kid to root for. He's from Texas, and he's been on the scene now for about 5 years, and he's got I think 3 or 4 majors. I forget his exact total, and he's likable. He says all the right things. There's nothing, you never see any bad press about him other than, the trolls out there on the internet will find something, to complain about, that he talks to his ball too much or that he's a little too emotional at times, but, he, for the most part, is, one that most people like to see do well.
And certainly a threat at Shinnecock a couple weeks from now. Fort Worth this weekend, Shinnecock at the Father's Day weekend, June 14th, they begin that. And, of course, Jack Nicklaus next week as well. Robert Canady is Buckets and Birds out on Twitter and, of course, at Compass Pointe Golf, where they have 36 bikini wax greens down there, as well as you can launch some balls into the distance down there in Pasadena. Just don't make the first turn. Make the second turn into the clubhouse down there. What do you guys got going on? You got night golf coming up here soon, too, right?
We do, yeah. Speaking of Father's Day weekend, it's Friday, June 15th that evening. So, after the golf is over in the day, you can come out here and you'll have a bite to eat and play some night golf. And we get the glow balls going, we get the fairway markers going, and it's always one of our more popular events of the year. And it's a fun time. And
you only do it a couple times, though, right? You don't do it
often.
I
think we do it like 3 times a year. Usually spring, the one during the summer, and then maybe a fall one. So it's we used to only do it once a year, and it filled up, and we had people demanding, to do it again or asking for us to do it again. So we've added a couple more to it, and it's a fun time. It's a different way to play golf, and it's a lot more social, a lot more laid back than you're grinding out your Saturday morning rounds with your buddies.
That's what I would need. I would need a little more social. I did see the bar and the lounge there. I was comfortable right away. You can follow Robert at Buckets and Birds as well. Tell everybody about Compass Pointe. Go give me a little sales speech on it. First things first, there's a lot of holes there. There's a lot of space, and it's obviously very, very easy to get to. We're talking about 10 minutes off the Beltway in Pasadena.
Yeah, it's we're a pretty big facility. 36 holes kind of speaks for itself. We're spread out over both sides of Fort Smallwood Road here in Pasadena. So we've got 2 courses which allow us to do a lot of different things. We can have one course open to the public, and all the regular Saturday, Sunday groups that come out to play, and then still leaves us another course to put charity outings and corporate outings on pretty much any day of the week. A lot of times, some of the other public courses don't want to do those on a weekend, because that's their prime time. So we are fortunate we can do both, and we welcome both. We have a full-time staff that does corporate outings, and it's I like to say it's one of the things we do well, because it's how I make my living, selling those. So it's we have a good repeat clientele that come year after year with their events, and some new ones that try us out. So it's always a good time, and we do all the work for them. But basically, all they have to do is make a phone call to us, give us the date they want, and from that point on, we pretty much do all the work so they can show up that day and mingle with all their clients, friends, customers, fundraisers, and just have a good time.
If you need a golf outing or just want to go hit the golf ball over the weekend, Compass Pointe Golf is out there. That's Compass Pointe with the silent E, compasspointegolf.com. You can also give Robert Canady a call, 410-255-7764. New tees and fairways on the West course, new bunkers on the West and North courses, and new incentives to book early all summer long. Play some night golf. Get down there this weekend, and we'll continue to check in with you, Robert. Take care of yourself out there. Make sure you're hitting it straight. I know we spent so much time in the winter talking basketball, talking about, hey, when the good weather comes, when the good weather comes. Now the good weather's here, I'm hanging out in hockey rinks where it's freezing. So at some point we'll get out there and play 18. Robert, always a pleasure to check in with you. We'll send everybody down to Compass Pointe and stay cool and dry out on the course here as we get ready for the turn of the holiday and real summer coming here beginning next week, right?
All right, Nestor. Yeah, sounds good. Let's hope the Caps stay off the golf course at least for another couple weeks at least.
I thought I saw some penguins down there on your golf course, but I was mistaken. It was just Penguin fans.
There you go. Well, thanks a lot, Nestor.
Robert Canady joining us here for Compass Pointe Golf. You can find them out there as well as at Buckets and Birds on Twitter. And if you really need Robert, throw me an email. I'll be happy to put you in touch with my golf guy, Robert Canady, down at Compass Pointe in Pasadena. Also stopped by Bella Napoli down there, had some cream of crab soup. So shout out to Pasquale and the folks down at Bella Napoli and Pasadena as well. Lots of friends down there in Anne Arundel County. Nasty at WNST.net reaches me, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live all over the world. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.